Okay, so in this video, we're going to pick up with the 7.8 notes, the inequality. We are going to be the middle of the back of the first page. So it looks like this 7.8 notes inequality. We are looking at to graph an inequality. Okay, and so we're going to look at graphing, and it's called interval notations in this video. So we're going to start with graphing. So when I say graph, what we want to do is if I have like x is greater than 5 or 6, I want to be able to graph this on a number line. Okay? And so when we graph this on a number line, what we start with is we place a mark on the number line at the number given in the problem. And the mark represents the endpoint. And when we do that, again, we have two options. We have x is greater than 6, or I could have x is greater than or equal to 6, are my two ways that this could look. And so we want a way to tell the difference between if we have greater than or we have greater than or equal to. And so what is the difference is we either use parentheses or bracket, or sometimes they use open circle or closed circle. And what parentheses or open circle means is that the endpoint is not included and it's used for less than or greater than. So like for this one, x is greater than 6. This means all numbers larger than 6. And so I don't want 6 included. I want 7 or 8, or I could have 6.1 or 6.01. That's bigger than 6, but I can't have 6. For this one though, because x is greater than or equal to 6, this means all numbers 6 or more. And so 6 is included. And if we want to include 6, we put a bracket on it or a closed circle. And that means the endpoint is included, and 6 is my endpoint, so that number is included, and it's used for less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So what we will do is we'll draw a number line. We will mark it with our numbers. I'm going to start with 0 because I need to get up to 6. Okay, so you want to draw numbers. You want numbers to the left of the number that you're looking for and to the right. And I am going to, if it's not included, I'm going to draw a parenthesis on it or an open circle. You can either one. Okay. Or it can look like open circle. If my number is included, like this second one, I'm going to either put a bracket on it or use a closed circle. And so that means 6 is included. This one means 6 is not included. It's not part of the solution. Okay. After we put that, we are going to draw an arrow to indicate which numbers are part of the solutions. So when our x is on the left side of our inequality, like it was above, we're going to draw an arrow to the left when the inequality contains less than or less than or equal to. And we're going to draw an arrow to the right when an inequality comes greater than or greater than or equal to. So I often think it's just easier to think about it. So what I know is I'm starting at 6 and I'm either going to shade to the right or to the left. And because I want numbers greater than 6. I don't want 5, 4, 3, 1. Those are not solutions. Those are not bigger than 6. So I want to shade to the right because I want to shade all the numbers that are solutions, which are greater than 6. So it could be 6.1, it could be 7, it could be 8, could be 9.5. All of those are solutions. And so this is the graph that shows the solutions. Again, you could also do open circle and then shade to the right. But on Hawks, you're going to be expected to use the parentheses, so you might want to get used to using that. For this one, it's the same thing. I have greater than or equal to, so I'm going to shade again to the right because it's big numbers that are bigger than 6. And we're just using bracket now because that means 6 is included for a closed circle. So I made that example up. Let's look at like the example in the notes. So it says the inequality x is greater than 3, and it says solution set. So solution set is what are all the possibilities? And so we're looking for all numbers larger than 3 or greater than 3. Okay, so again, 3.1, 4, 5.1, 5.5, anything greater than 3. So if I'm graphing it, I put my numbers on my number line. So I need to go up to 3. So after you draw your number line, you look at your inequality symbol and it does not have the equal sign, it's just greater than. So that means, again, I either use open circle or parentheses. Or parentheses. So I am going to do, again, the parentheses because that's what Hawks wants you to do. And then I want x is greater than. So anytime it's greater than, if I look at it, okay, here's 3. I want numbers bigger than 3, so I want to go to the right. 4, 5, 6. I don't want to go to the left. So I'm going to draw my parentheses open to the right because that's the way I'm going to shade. And then I'm going to shade to the right because this is all numbers that are greater than 3. And you want to make sure, check it, like 4 is greater than 3, 5 is greater than 3, 6 is greater than 3. So that's right. Okay, so this is showing me all the possible solutions on a number line. Okay, so we're going to look at on your packet. Again, these 4 examples where it says graph the following on a number line and then write the interval notation. So we're going to start with graphing it and then we're going to look at interval notation and do that part second. So when we do x is greater than -2, I'm going to again do numbers both sides of -2. I am going to look at my symbol, and since it's just greater than, we are going to use a parenthesis or an open circle. Okay. Now, again, I want greater than, so if I come to -2, if I think, okay, which side do I need? I want numbers bigger than -2, so I want to go to the right. So what that means is I'm going to shade to the right of -2, and I need my parentheses to open to the right. And so this is x is greater than -2. Okay, so number 2 says x is less than or equal to 0. So again, I'm going to do my number line. I am going to start at 0, and then because I want that I have the equal to, I need to use a bracket, okay, or again, a closed circle. I'm going to stick with what Hawks does. If I want x is less than 0, here's 0. I want numbers that are smaller, so I want to the left. So again, I'm always starting at 0. I'm going to put a bracket. I'm going to open it to the left because that's the direction I have to shade, and I'm going to shade to the left, okay, because these are all numbers that are smaller, and I'm going to put an arrow to show that it keeps going. Okay, so I encourage you to stop and pause and try number 3, and then check back. But once you have tried it, it's going to look like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is going to be a bracket because it has the equal sign. and I want x is greater than, so I want to shade, if I start at 4, I want to shade to the right of 4, and so I need to put the bracket to the right, and then shade every number to the right of 4. Okay, and again, make sure it goes up to 4 because we want 4 included. Okay. Now, anytime you have something like this, it really helps to have the x on the left side of the inequality, and so I highly recommend rewriting this. So we have -3 is greater than x. Another way to write that is x is less than -3. So that's the same thing. The opening has to go to the -3, and the x has to be to the point of the inequality, but I'm just rewriting it so that the x is on the left. And then we're going to graph it. So we're going to draw our number line. So I'm starting at -3. This is always my starting point because it does not have the equal sign. We use parentheses, okay, again, or open circle. And we're going to start on -3. We want x is less. So if we look at -3, I want values smaller than -3, which is less. So that's to the left. So we're going to do parentheses opening to the left and shade it. And it has to go up to 3 because -3.1, -3.5, all of those are valid. You can't start at 4, -4. So make sure you're going to whatever this number is and then putting the proper symbol on it. Okay, so that's how we graph. The second part of it, and this is on the next page of your notes. So if you come to your notes and go to this table, you're going to fill in this table. So you might need to pause. But we're going to do something called interval notation. And so interval notation is another way to write an inequality. It's a little more concise, and we use it a lot more in upper level mathematics compared to this notation with inequalities. So how it works is it really matches up with how we graphed it. And so this interval notation is saying we're looking at all the numbers between a and positive infinity. And positive infinity just means that we're looking at all the numbers to the right of a, because if we draw an arrow to the right, it keeps going on, we say forever, and we call that positive infinity. And so this to the right is positive infinity. If we are drawing an arrow to the left and we're saying it's less than a number, our arrow is going in the negative direction, and we call that negative infinity. And so when we do interval notation, when we have x is greater than a, how we write it is we start at our lowest value, which would be a. And if it is just greater than, we put a parentheses, just like we did for graphing. If it's greater than or equal to, and we want a to be included, we put a bracket on it, sorry, bracket. And then we put comma and we put infinity if we're looking for greater than values, because it goes on forever in the positive direction. If we're doing x is less than or equal to, we're going forever in the negative direction. So we call that negative infinity. Now, when we do interval notation, it matches up with a number line. It has to go left to right or smallest to greatest number. And so if we are going to negative infinity, we always start with that. And then we end whatever our value is. So if we're saying less than b, we're ending at b. And we put parentheses if it's just less than. If it's less than or equal to, then we put bracket. And note, interval notation always uses parentheses with infinity or negative infinity. Okay, so that's that blank on your here, parentheses with infinity or negative infinity. That's very important. It's because infinity and negative infinity go on forever, and so it's not an endpoint. It doesn't stop there, and so parentheses means that it's like not included. It doesn't stop. Okay, so we're gonna go back and we're gonna write the interval notation for the ones that we did before. So if I want x is greater than 3, and it helps to graph it to do interval, if I want to do the interval notation, what I would do is I again start left to right. So my lowest value is 3 because it doesn't have the equal sign and we use it here. It's parenthesis, comma, and then we put positive infinity because it's going to the right towards positive infinity. Okay, so let's try a few more. Let's do the 4 that we graphed. So if I want the interval notation, and again, it will match up with the graph. What we're gonna do is we're gonna look at our graph. Okay, it starts at -2. We want x is greater than -2. I have a parenthesis because it doesn't have the equal sign. So I'm gonna do -2, and then I go to positive infinity. Okay, so this one is shaded to the left, and so it's going to negative infinity. And we're stopping at 0. So we always start with the negative infinity. We go there, and then we're going to go to 0, and then close it, and we're going to use a bracket because it had the equal sign. For x is greater than or equal to 4, and the same thing. I'm starting at 4, so I'm going to do bracket 4, comma, and then it's going right to infinity, so we do infinity. And then I recommend, again, pausing, trying number 4, and then coming back and checking it. But if you try it, what you will get is this is an arrow to the left. So it goes to negative infinity, comma, and then we're stopping at 3 and we're putting parentheses again, because it's not an equal sign, it's not included. Okay, and so that's interval notation and graphing it. And then we'll pick up in the next video with how to do the next part.